Modules 1 and 2 covered the what and the how, what agentic AI is, and how multi-agent systems are architected. Both are necessary. Neither is sufficient. The question boards ask, and the question that determines whether agentic AI investments are approved or deferred, is simpler. What is the return, and when does it materialize? That question deserves a more rigorous answer than most organizations are currently giving it. The frameworks being used to evaluate agentic AI investment were built for a different class of technology. Applying them to autonomous systems produces either systematic undervaluation, which leads to underinvestment, or unpleasant surprises when costs exceed projections. Neither outcome serves the organization. Module 3 addresses this directly. We are going to rebuild the economic framework from the ground up. 3 objectives for this session. First, you will be able to apply a new ROI framework that is fit for purpose for autonomous systems. That means understanding why traditional efficiency metrics fail to capture the value of agentic AI, and what to measure instead. Second, you will know how to model compounding value. Agentic systems that learn and improve over time do not follow a static value curve. The financial model needs to reflect that. We will work through how to construct that projection credibly. Third, you will be able to construct a board-ready business case that accounts honestly for the full cost of deployment, including the hidden costs that are routinely omitted from early-stage proposals. A business case that cannot survive scrutiny from a CFO is not a business case. It is a wish list. Let me start with the core problem. Traditional software ROI models were designed to measure one thing: efficiency. How much faster can we do what we already do? The primary metric is hours saved, often expressed as FTE-reduction, and the value curve is static. The tool delivers its value on day 1 and delivers the same value on day 100. That model is not wrong for the class of software it was designed for. A document management system saves the same amount of filing time on day 100 as it did on day 1. The model fits. Agentic AI is not that class of software. The value proposition is different in 3 fundamental ways. The focus is effectiveness, not efficiency. Not doing the same things faster, but doing entirely new things that were previously not feasible. The primary metrics are better decisions, faster execution on complex workflows, and new revenue streams or capabilities that did not exist before the agent was deployed. And the value curve compounds. An agentic system that learns from its operating environment improves its performance over time. The value it delivers in month 18 is greater than the value it delivered in month 1. A static ROI model cannot represent that trajectory. In a business case that cannot represent, it will systematically understate the investment's long-term return. If FTE reduction is the wrong primary metric, what replaces it? For categories of measurement that together give a complete picture of agentic AI value. Decision quality uplift. Did the agent surface insights, catch anomalies, or identify risks that a human analyst would have missed? This is measurable. You can track the error reduction rate on a defined set of decisions, or the yield rate on anomaly detection tasks. The financial value of a bad decision avoided is often substantially larger than the cost of the agent that caught it. Execution velocity. How much faster does the organization complete complex, multi-step workflows? Not individual tasks, but end-to-end processes. Cycle time reduction on target process categories is a metric that finance teams understand, and that translates directly into throughput and capacity. Capability expansion. What can the organization do now that it could not do before, at this cost or at this speed? This is the hardest metric to quantify in advance, but it is often where the most significant value sits. New workflow categories enabled, services that were previously too expensive to offer, analysis that was previously too slow to be actionable. These are not soft benefits. They are revenue and margin opportunities that require a different kind of measurement. Compounding improvement rate. Is the agent measurably better at its tasks in month 12 than it was in month 1? Track accuracy delta month on month across the target task categories. An agent that is improving at 3 to 5% per month is on a trajectory that compounds significantly over a 3-year horizon. That trajectory needs to be in a business case, with conservative base and upside scenarios. These 4 metrics are not alternatives to financial ROI. They are the inputs to it. Measure the mechanisms, and the financial case builds itself. Traditional software value is capped at the time the tool is deployed. You buy a license, you extract a defined efficiency gain. And that gain is replicated by every competitor who buys the same license. There is no proprietary advantage. There is no improvement over time. The value is real, but it is static, and it is commoditized. Agentic AI value grows. The system improves through feedback loops. It accumulates operational data specific to your organization, your workflows, and your decision-making patterns. That accumulated intelligence is proprietary. A competitor who deploys the same model at a later date does not inherit your system's operational history. They start from zero. This is what the slide describes as a proprietary data moat. It is a genuine source of competitive advantage. And it is the argument that justifies treating agentic AI as a strategic investment rather than an operational expense. The paradigm shift stated at the bottom of this slide is the single sentence I would ask you to carry back to your boards. Stop measuring how much time an agent saves a human. Start measuring how the agent's continuous optimization creates the growing competitive advantage. The value case for agentic AI is strong. The cost case is frequently incomplete. There are 3 categories of costs that traditional software TCO models do not include, and that routinely cause agentic AI deployments to exceed their initial financial projections. Compute or inference costs. Every reasoning step an agentic system takes consumes compute. Unlike traditional software, which executes deterministic logic at negligible cost per operation, agentic reasoning draws on foundation models that carry meaningful per-call costs. At exploratory volumes in year 1, these costs are difficult to predict. Budget for overruns. As workflows mature and are optimized, per-unit costs decline, but they do not disappear. This is an ongoing operational expense that needs a line in the budget, not a footnote. Orchestration overhead. Building and maintaining the coordination layer for a multi-agent system is not a one-time engineering cost. The initial build is significant, but the ongoing work of maintaining the orchestration logic, handling errors, updating agent routing as workflows evolve, and monitoring system behavior represents a continuous engineering commitment. Organizations that budget for the build and not for the maintenance will find themselves in difficulty in year 2. Data pipeline maintenance. Agents are only as effective as the quality and timeliness of the data they perceive. Maintaining high-quality, real-time data pipelines is not infrastructure that takes care of itself. Data quality degrades. Upstream systems change. Integration connectors require updates. This is a continuous operational cost that scales with the number of enterprise systems the agent ecosystem touches. It belongs in every TCO model, from the first version of the business case. The hidden costs slide names the categories. This slide gives you the model for quantifying them across a 3-year investment horizon. The pattern across all 3 cost categories follows a similar curve. Year 1 is the most expensive and the least predictable. This is the build year. High compute costs at exploratory volumes, significant engineering effort on the orchestration layer, and the substantial integration work required to connect agents to live enterprise data at the quality and latency the system needs. Years 2 and 3 shift to a maintenance and optimization pattern. Per unit compute costs decline as workflows are refined, and, in many cases, as fine-tuned models replace general-purpose foundation model calls for well-defined tasks. Orchestration effort reduces to a maintenance level. Data pipeline costs continue, but at a more predictable level. The net value formula at the bottom of this slide is the one your board will focus on. Compounding benefit curve minus total cost of ownership. The business case becomes defensible when those 2 curves cross. For most enterprise deployments, that crossover occurs between months 14 and 22, depending on workflow complexity and the state of the underlying data infrastructure. A business case that does not show that crossover point explicitly has not answered the board's primary question. The question is not whether the investment will generate value. The question is when. Let me illustrate the measurement problem with a concrete example. Google deployed Jules, an autonomous coding agent. Internally, the initial instinct, as it is in most technology deployments, was to measure ROI using familiar software development metrics. Lines of code written per hour, time saved per developer. These are metrics that existing dashboards and reporting structures could produce. They were the path of least resistance. The problem was that those metrics fundamentally misrepresented what Jules was doing and therefore what was worth. Measuring an autonomous coding agent by lines of code is, as the slide puts it, like measuring a chief executive by email sent. The metric captures a visible activity and misses the actual value entirely. Jules was not valuable because it typed faster. It was valuable because it approached software problems differently, exploring solution spaces that human developers, under time pressure, would not have explored, catching classes of error that are systematically overlooked in human code review, and enabling developers to take on more ambitious projects because the execution risk had changed. The reframe that unlocked the value case. The measurement shift is captured in 3 lines on this slide, and each one represents a meaningful change in how value is understood. From lines of code to system-level problems solved, the unit of measurement changes from output volume to outcome quality. From headcount reduction to capability multiplication, the value proposition changes from cost avoidance to capacity expansion. From time saved to increased ambition of projects, the most significant value is not in doing existing work faster. It is in the decision to take on work that would previously have been judged too complex or too risky to attempt. That third reframe is the one that most organizations have not yet made. It requires a different kind of conversation with a board and a different kind of business case. But it is where the real strategic value of agentic AI sits. The central question for this discussion: how do we reframe value from headcount reduction to capability multiplication? 3 discussion prompts. Measuring effectiveness. How would you measure the value of a finance agent that identifies anomalous spending patterns a human analyst would have missed? Work through this carefully. The anomaly itself has a value. The fraud prevented, the budget recovered, the contract renegotiated. But how do you establish a baseline? And how do you attribute the value to the agent rather than to the analyst who acted on its finding? This is a measurement design problem, and it has practical answers. The point of the question is to surface what those answers look like in your specific context. The freed time fallacy. If an agent saves your team 20 hours a week, how do you ensure that time is reinvested into higher value strategic work? This question exposes one of the most common gaps in agentic AI business cases. The efficiency saving is real, but efficiency savings that are absorbed into existing workloads without generating new output do not appear on the revenue or margin line. The business case assumed a reinvestment that the organization never actually made. How do you structure the deployment, the role redesign, and the management incentives so that the freed capacity is directed deliberately? New revenue streams. What entirely new services or products could the department offer if execution speed was no longer a constraint? This is the capability expansion question applied to your specific context. I would ask each person to come to this with at least one concrete example. Not a category, but a specific service or product that is currently not offered because the economics of delivery do not work at human execution speed. That specificity is what makes the business case credible. This is the most applied exercise in the series. You are building a board-ready business case, not a concept paper. Select one of the 2 scenarios. Using the financial templates provided, construct a business case for deploying an agentic system across a 3-year horizon. The business case has 3 required components. First, calculate the total cost of ownership. Estimate compute, orchestration, and data pipeline costs across years 1, 2, and 3. Do not omit categories because they are hard to estimate. A range is more credible than an omission. Second, project the compounding value. Model the financial impact of the system, improving its task accuracy by 5% month on month. Show the crossover point where accumulated value exceeds accumulated TCO. Third, identify the financial risk. Specifically, what is the cost exposure if the system hallucinates on a consequential decision or executes a flawed workflow before the error is caught? That risk needs to be priced, not noted. The deliverable is a 3-minute board pitch defending your ROI projections against peer critique. The critique will focus on the same questions a CFO or risk committee would ask. What did you leave out of the cost model? And how confident are you in the compounding value assumption? Scenario A, customer support. Deploy an agent to autonomously resolve Tier 1 and Tier 2 technical support tickets, including issuing refunds up to a defined threshold. Consider the liability implications of autonomous refund issuance, the data access requirements across your CRM and billing systems, and the customer experience risk if the agent handles an edge case incorrectly. Scenario B, legal contract review. Deploy an agent to review, redline, and negotiate standard vendor NDAs and MSAs. Consider the professional liability questions around autonomous legal review, the data sensitivity of the contracts being processed, and the oversight structure required before an agent-negotiated position is binding on the organization. You may pause the video to work on this. It should not take you more than 45 minutes. There are 3 dimensions for the debrief. 1. The soft benefits problem. How successfully did teams quantify improved decision quality, faster execution, and compounding value? The most common failure mode here is not that teams ignored these categories. It is that they treated them as narrative rather than numbers. Improved decision quality is quantifiable if you define the baseline and the measurement method. Faster execution translates directly into throughput and capacity. Compounding improvement has a mathematical expression, a board pitch that says, and additionally, the system will improve over time. Without modeling that trajectory is leaving the most important part of the value case unstated. 2. Hidden cost omissions. Did the peer critique identify missing cost categories? In my experience running this exercise across multiple sectors, the most commonly omitted cost is orchestration maintenance in years 2 and 3. Teams budget for the build and treat years 2 and 3 as low cost. They are not low cost. They are lower cost in year 1, but the ongoing engineering commitment to maintain, update, and monitor a production agentic system is real and needs to be reflected. The second most commonly omitted cost is data quality remediation, the work required to bring upstream data to the standard the agent needs to operate reliably. 3. The cost of inaction. Was the cost of doing nothing factored into the final recommendation? This is the question that most frequently changes the outcome of a business case review. The investment case for agentic AI is not evaluated in isolation. It is evaluated against a counterfactual. What happens to the organization's competitive position if it does not deploy, while competitors do? In most sectors, that counterfactual is not neutral. It is negative. A competitor deploying agentic AI in customer support or contract review is building the proprietary data moat we discussed earlier. The cost of allowing that moat to be built by someone else belongs in your business case. 3 takeaways from this session. First, agentic ROI requires a new measurement framework. Traditional efficiency metrics built around time saved and FTE reduction systematically undervalue autonomous systems. The 4 metrics that replace them are decision quality uplift, execution velocity, capability expansion, and compounding improvement rate. These are not soft alternatives to financial measurement. They are the mechanisms through which financial value is generated. Measure the mechanisms, and the financial case follows. Second, the full TCO must be in the business case from the start. Compute, orchestration, and data pipeline costs are not incidental to agentic AI deployment. They are structural. A business case that omits them is not conservative. It is incomplete, and it will not survive the scrutiny of a CFO who has seen a previous agentic deployment exceed its projections. The crossover point between accumulated TCO and compounding value is the number boards need to see. Put it in the business case with the assumptions that drive it clearly stated. Third, the ultimate goal is capability multiplication. The question I would ask you to put to your leadership teams is not, how much will this agent save us? It is, what will we be able to do that we cannot do today once this agent is operating reliably? That reframe changes the investment conversation, the governance design, and the organizational change program that surrounds the deployment. It is the conversation that separates organizations that treat Agentic AI as a cost optimization tool from those that treat it as a strategic platform. Individual reflection. The reflection prompt for this session. If you had an agentic system that could execute your department's core operational tasks flawlessly and instantly, what new strategic initiatives would you launch tomorrow? That answer is your capability expansion case. It is also the starting point for Module 4, where we turn to the governance and risk frameworks that make responsible deployment of that capability possible. I look forward to continuing this with you in Module 4.